And then he said, "No, madam, it's my 11th digit."
Oh, gotta get those digits.
It is odd to find out they have knuckles of their own, really. It was a surprise to me.
Yeah. It just wasn't... I thought there was no bone in there. But I guess...
On the plus side, makes thumb wars interesting.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It does,
in a way.
actually.
In a way.
Well, yeah, for a given value of thumbs. Hello, Christopher.
Hi. Sorry, I'm just doing the incidental music from Gremlins, apparently.
Yeah, apparently so. Listen, you're on one tonight. You better rein it in, or I'm going to come over there and slap you.
We've for those who don't know how this show works, we're still on Skype because pandemic. But also, we have a little chinwag, little catch up beforehand. We haven't caught up in the week. We have a little catch up beforehand.
Yeah.
We've just been chatting shit for 10 minutes, basically.
Yeah.
Utter shite.
Utter.
Mostly rude.
I mean, so's the podcast, but...
True. What podcast
really
is that?
us.
Mayhew.
It's this podcast, the Big Damn Cast.
The podcast.
From Big Damn.
Yeah.
Your favourite two fat northerners.
Breaking it down and running around town, but not running around town. Only going where we need to go.
All sweaty.
Pandemic.
Only going where we need to go and to work.
Look, we just went to London to march with a bunch of hundreds of thousands of other strangers and breathe on them and say, "Hey, everyone, we want our freedoms back."
Listen,
as we march through a town we don't live in.
We just want to go to London to visit Cameron McIntosh and say, "Oh, Cameron, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that you had a rough year because you had to decide to make people that must have been so hard for you to take away those people's jobs who don't have jobs anymore, and then it must have been so hard for you because you were in such a low place that you felt the need to clarify that musicians shouldn't expect to have the same job for months on end. You tone-deaf twat.
Have you seen the meme doing the round? I can't find the origin because so many people have made the joke now, but the meme doing the round of the new band has been revealed for Her Majesty's continuation of Phantom of the Opera, and people are just attaching pictures of one-man bands. The best one I've seen is they've superimposed the Phantom mask over the guy's face.
Nice.
Oh, it's depressing, isn't it?
Well, to be fair, they've been... not to be fair, but...
Yeah, don't be fair. Cameron McIntosh hasn't been fair. Don't be fair. Yeah,
but the
Lloyd Webber has not been fair. Don't be fair.
Even before the pandemic, they were cutting bands where they could anyway.
It's mental.
Cutting back instrumentations and using pre-recorded tracks to sort of cover less live musicians and stuff like that. So it doesn't fucking surprise me. I mean, there's a reason he's fucking filthy rich. It's because he's filthy.
Yeah, I was watching. There's a brilliant YouTuber called, I think I'll double check, but I think they're called Sideways. They cover music essentially. They're they write music and read music and breathe music as a form. And they did these wonderful dissections. I'll just double check. Yeah, Sideways is the YouTuber. These wonderful dissections of the 2012 Les Mis movie and the 2019 Cats movie, because obviously both were Tom Hooper directing and proving that Tom Hooper has no fucking clue what he's doing.
Well, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't know that what he's doing is the wrong thing for what he is doing, if that makes any sense.
But you know, a film adaptation of the stage version of Les Mis has been on the cards like for 30 odd years.
Oh yeah.
But Cameron McIntosh wouldn't allow it to happen. He had like the final say, basically. He would be the one who pulled the trigger and allowed a project to happen if he felt that it was a journey worth taking because it was a unique perspective. And apparently he met with Tom Hooper, who throughout both of these documentaries by Sideways becomes apparent has no passion for or even like reasonable knowledge of music or musicals.
Oh, no.
He met with Tom Hooper.
If you've seen one of his film musicals, you know that that's the case.
He met with Tom Hooper in 2009, 2010, and Tom Hooper said, I think we should do Les Mis, but we should do it as though it were real, as though it were realistic, and sing it on the floor and let the actors lead the music and do it that way. He met with him and went, that's the unique take I've been looking for, showing that ultimately successful people are just idiots who fail upwards, boys and girls.
Well, usually if they're blokes, it is, yeah.
Yeah. There might be a ruthless gene in there, and probably, buried deep within, a spark of actual joy and love for the medium, but it just kind of gets drowned out in this green and purple and orange papery substance that just keeps gathering around it for years and years later.
If it's green and purple, it's a Marvel villain.
Well, speaking of Marvel villains, hi, welcome to Big Damn Cast.
Hi.
I am Chris, the Eel Johnson.
And
I just thought I'd go obscure. Fuck it.
I am Matthew, the Unicorn Watson.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah, we're going 60s Silver Age obscure Marvel villains. I could have gone the Locust.
I would have gone for my runners up were the Living Laser.
Yeah, I love the Living Laser.
Love a bit of the Living Laser. The Spot. I do
Spot's
like a bit of the
great.
Spot. And Mr. Hyde.
Mr. Hyde's good. Porcupine is a good shout.
Armadillo.
The
Walrus. I'd forgotten the Walrus existed. I've been rereading Spider-Man for 2 years now, just casually going through everything I have chronologically with no breaks. So basically the start of, Marvel Knights separate, but like the start of the JMS run. So up to him joining Avengers and everything. And I recently read, finished Superior Spider-Man. I binged it in like 2 days because it's one of my favourite things the Spider-Man books have ever done, and I couldn't help myself. Yeah. And then I spent a couple of weeks buying second-hand copies of Superior Spider-Man Team-Up so I could have the full run of that, and then I could read through that too.
Oh, neat.
I've ended up with like 3 library copies that have got like stickers on the spines and cellophane covers, and I'm so annoyed, but I paid £3 for them, so it doesn't matter. And I'm now back into the Marvel Now, that brief period where Peter's back in charge and we get Spider-Verse and then Secret Wars upends fucking everything for months.
Marvel now, Marvel later, Marvel soon.
Marvel whence? Yeah, Marvel soon. Marvel sometime. But one of the first villains that Peter fights when he comes back is the White Rabbit, and she's surrounded by a bunch of like animal-themed villains, and one of them's the Walrus. I forgot the Walrus was a villain. It's just a big dude with metal tusks like attached to his chin.
Sure.
Like, why not? Why not?
Why not? Indeed, that is the kind of creativity that we expect from Stanley in the 60s.
Hey, the 90s produced some of the most golden shite. I mean,
oh well.
Wolverine got like Cypher for Wolverine. Do you remember that guy? He always had a big saber-tooth like grin because it was really popular to draw characters with toothy grins, and he basically his powers were like he had like cables coming out of all of his body, and he hacked into electricity and
which must have been. Are you sure he was called Cypher because Cypher was also the code name of Doug Ramsey from the New Mutants?
Different characters.
But he would have been dead. He would have been dead during the 90s.
Might have been Cyber.
Cyber sounds right.
Cyber, because you've got all those weird ones from around then. Cardiac.
LCD?
Judas Traveller. Will-O the Wisp. He's 80s, I think, but Will-O the Wisp.
Will-O the Wisp.
There
was lots of like very edgy like villain characters in the 90s, and mostly they turned out to be like future versions of one of the main characters and stuff. Even Fantastic Four got in on that.
Yeah. God, oh Christ,
with Dark Raider, I think, was like the evil future version of Reed Richards. It's not good. Which
other comics have done better since? Even Ultimate did better with that concept, the idea of evil Reed Richards. They made it work.
Yeah, and then Jonathan Hickman left.
Yeah, God. What are the other? Oh God, this I loves me an obscure Marvel villain. The 80s produced ones that seem to have stuck though, because it's the 30-year cycle. Like the writers who love them have brought back characters like Carrion and Vermin, and ones like that who just sort of like they've slunk back around They'll come back. The 90s nostalgia's on its way.
Yeah.
I can't wait for more fucking symbiotes.
Well, we're
Jesus
getting a
Christ.
Miles Morales version of the Clone Saga.
I will wait and see what that is all about
You know,
before I judge.
it's happening.
You know. Speaking of Spider-Man, first little bit of news.
Spider-Man.
Sony and Marvel, Sony and Disney specifically, have made a deal for streaming services. In 2022, although rumour is some of them might show up in 2021 in the third and fourth quarter, but in 2022 through to 2026, Sony's Marvel catalogue will appear exclusively on Disney+.
Disney Plus.
Disney Plus. And they have confirmed that the Disney Plus Marvel catalogue from Sony will be Ghost Rider Spirit
Brilliant.
of Vengeance.
Brilliant. Spirit of Vengeance is legitimately great stupid. It's so stupid.
And it's got a great cast as
It's
well.
got a really good cast, like
it's
a better
like-
cast than it has any right having, and it's absolute
It's like Kieran
blast.
Hines and Idris Elba and Anthony
Idris
Stewart
fucking Elba's in
Head.
it, yeah.
And it's mental.
It's great. I
and
mean, it's not. It's awful, but it's great fun.
Oh, it is awful. Like, it looks like... I'm trying to remember who wrote it. It's on my shelf, but it's just out of view. It looks like... There's two Ghost Rider miniseries from the 2000s that were illustrated by Clayton Crane.
Yeah.
I think they might be written by Mark Waid. I don't know, but like...
No, it was
Garth Ennis?
Garth Ennis. Yeah,
Garth Ennis.
Garth Ennis was one of them anyway. Road to Damnation.
Yeah, because that's the thing. There's two of them. One of them set present day, and one of them set in the Old West. And the ending of the first Ghost Rider sort of borrows some of the visuals. Spirit of Vengeance is basically just all the visuals but none of the plot of Road to Damnation. And it's bonkers. Not good Marvel kids, but worth a watch if you've never seen them. Mostly just because Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Caging it up.
Yeah, the first one's kind of dull, but the second one's properly bonkers.
Yeah, the first one's got its moments. The second one is fuck it. He's got a flaming skull for a head. Let's just go for this. They're also putting The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 on the service.
Yay.
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man trilogy, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3. The MCU, as it will be by that point, Spider-Man trilogy, Homecoming, Far From Home, and No Way Home will all be on Disney+.
Excellent.
Into the Spider-Verse will be on there.
Excellent.
Venom will be on there. And they've confirmed that going forward, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Morbius, and Into the Spider-Verse 2 will all exclusively debut on streaming on Disney+.
I am so curious about Let There Be Carnage.
I don't want it. I think it's more amazing that it finished filming like over a year ago, and we've seen nothing.
I mean,
Like fuck all, nothing.
I don't
Not even
think
a teaser
that's
poster.
that unusual. It just because they probably know they've got a turd on their hands in the wind.
I'm morbidly curious. Oh, God, I forgot about that. I'm morbidly curious just on the basis of its like Serkis directing it. It's like his second or third movie as a director, and I'm just like, why did he say yes to this? Like either he's got a really unique idea on how to handle it technologically and was like, I think I could do something with this, or they pulled a dump truck of money up to his house and just went,
it was a
we
pretty
need
good
a
payday.
legit name.
Yeah.
You know,
Probably a
it's-
pretty good payday.
I bet they're kicking themselves that they killed off Riz Ahmed now, as
Yeah.
well, considering all of his recent endeavours.
I've still
it's
not got around
alright.
to watching Sound of Metal yet. I should watch that.
But it's all right. We have Woody Harrelson playing
Oh yeah.
originally like 30-ish-year-old scrawny psychopath Cletus Cassidy, who's now like 54-year-old Woody Harrelson in a carrot top wig.
Oh god,
Playing
that wig
Carnage.
is so bad. That wig is
just-
so bad.
They let me out of here. There will be carnage. I would like to speak to whoever is writing these Sony Spider-Man movies because no, bad.
No one's
bad. Get down. No, bad.
No
Bad
one's
now.
really writing them. They're just sort of constructing them from bits of blocks they've got. They just take a bunch of like toddlers' letter blocks to Avi Arad and say, just tell us what you want, Avi. And he goes, all right. And then he just stacks the blocks and knocks them over.
He changes his beanie to a different Spider-Man beanie.
Yeah.
And then he I wonder how much it annoys him that his protege has stolen that from him with the whole baseball cap thing.
The problem is, if you've got a protege like that, is you have to be smarter than they are, or they will take your ideas and do them better. Oh, look, that's exactly what happened. They took your ideas that didn't work and made them work. Yep. Shocking. Yep. Although Ike Perlmutter got in the way for too long.
Yeah, but that guy can rot in hell. This means there is only one outlier for the MCU on Disney+.
Which is?
The Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, well, that's tied up with Universal, isn't it?
Yeah, now they could do a deal with them. They could be like, hey, we want exclusive streaming rights to that movie. I'm pretty sure Universal will go, do you know what? Fuck it, sure.
I don't think it is streaming anywhere at the moment.
It pops up from time to time on Amazon Prime in the UK. It's not a common one, but I've seen it at least twice over the years. So it's like the Spider-Man MCU movies at the moment. It just sort of does the rounds and shows up on Netflix for a bit, or then shows up on Amazon Prime for a bit.
Oh, a lot of that stuff actually is on Now TV quite a bit.
Yeah. Well, the difference there is the Movie Pass and that, though, isn't it? Because if those channels have got the rights to broadcast them, which is why the deal is from 2022 to 2026, but the belief is that a lot of them will arrive on Disney Plus before the end of 2021. Mostly because it just depends on where their deals are with other broadcasting services.
Yeah.
Because there was a time over here, wasn't there, where I think it was when Disney Plus first properly activated over here last March, a couple of the Avengers films weren't on it yet. It's because they were on Sky Movies. Yeah. So, and then once that deal ended, they came right over there.
Although some of them that are on Disney Plus are still on Now TV, so I guess it's not necessarily an exclusivity thing.
Yeah, true. And then it could be a rental thing, though, I guess.
Maybe.
We shall have to wait and see. We are going to talk more about Disney Plus very shortly, because you probably noticed from the thumbnail and shit that we got a new Captain America officially, and we want to talk about him. But what else do we want to cover before we get leapt into Sam Wilson's warm, protective arms?
Well, we mentioned the Oscars before we started recording, and that's a shit show, so let's not go there.
Yeah. Don't hate on Hopkins. It isn't his fault that they manipulated the programming to form a narrative that they then didn't deliver on.
Why would you do that, though? Why would you...
Because people in power are usually people who failed upwards.
Someone must know who won before they scheduled it. So why would they
reschedule the awards so that Best Actor was the last one instead of Best Picture? Yeah.
So why reschedule Best Actor for being the last one when you're going to give it to someone who isn't even going to give an acceptance speech?
Yeah. I mean, again, no hating on him. He was probably sat home in his pajamas eating KFC checking his phone. Oh, my agents text me. Padler won the Oscar. That's nice.
Another one for the shelf.
Oh, look.
I got bookends.
I got a bit of popcorn chicken and escaped into the bag.
And then he'll just do a lip sync TikTok because that's what Anthony Hopkins does now.
Does he do TikTok?
He does all sorts of weird shit on the internet, does Anthony
Hopkins? I know he's fun with social media. It's like the Anthony Hopkins we fell in love with in Transformers: The Last Night. Mm-hmm. Grew a sentience of his own and got social media. And I'm kind of here for that. Like, sure. Why not? Like, why the fuck? Patrick Stewart gets stoned with his wife in tree houses. Yeah. Anthony Hopkins does TikTok. Sure.
And Jack Black makes really weird videos of him running around in his underwear.
Best thing I've seen on the internet this week.
It's amazing. Because it's absolutely amazing.
It's this weird culmination because you realise, hang on, the Iron Man one was from like a year ago. The Spider-Man one was from like 2 years ago. Has he been planning this? It was great. I loved it.
No, he's just got a lot of time on his hands.
And works with a brilliant, visual effects artist who just collabs with him to make these weird short Instagram videos.
So funny.
That behind the scenes shot at the end where you realise that one of his kids is filming on a handheld and the special effects guy's filming on a drone.
Yeah.
He's not even in his yard. He's just filming above his yard with a drone. It's like, what? That's how you do it in a pandemic, folks.
That's how you do it in the biz.
That's how you do it in the biz. Because Jack Black was one of those ones where the moment LA went into its first kind of lockdown last April, May. He was like, yeah, no, I'm not going out unless I have to go out for stuff. It's not happening. So a lot of this has been made remotely.
Yeah.
Him at home working with the visual effect guy who came over occasionally for distance, and the rest of the time it was on drones and shit. It's like, that is amazing. Jack Black and Will Smith basically went, how do I social media? I know, I'll hire someone who makes really cool visual effects stuff, and they can social media with me. And now I have ad revenue on my social media. I can rake in the thousands by posting a photo of me in my pants.
Let's all be like Jack Black.
But enough about the Big Damn OnlyFans.
He's not the Captain America that we all wanted. And he wasn't the only one we got.
But he's the Hercules that we deserve.
I'm just saying. On that note, before we talk about Captain America and the Winter Soldier.
Segue! Russell Crowe's been running his fucking mouth, hasn't he?
Turns around on social media and goes, I'm going to do my Russell Crowe voice now, you ready? I'm ready for another day of filming on the new Thor movie, and I'm going to be Zeus. I'll be Zeusing it up. Zeus. So Russell Crowe is Zeus in Thor: Love and Thunder, so they're doing Zeus. Which would suggest that they might be doing Hercules.
The Greek pantheon exists in the MCU, which I think is the natural way to expand the Thor narrative as well. Like, use Thor as a jumping off point to be like, oh, the Norse gods. Yeah, of course they're real.
I need...
You knew the other guys were as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, if the Norse pantheon exists, it suggests that maybe the Greek one does too. I stand by my statement on Twitter this week. Hercules should be a Hulk in Ragnarok style co-star of another film.
Yep.
And it should be Jack Black.
It should be Jack Black. It should be a sexy bi fat man.
Yeah, I don't want him to bull cut, like, you know, train a bit obviously to kind of put up with the schedule and all that of the filming and the stunts and set pieces, but don't Kumail Nanjiani him. Do not do that. Like, we have got the svelte superstars, you know, Simu Liu and Tom Holland. Like, we have the svelte, like, muscly guys in the MCU going forward. Give me the beardy, round-bellied guy who is a bisexual hero and a god who beats up bad guys because it's fun. That's what I'd like. Especially because it looks
mouthy
like
with it as well.
Thor's trimmed right the hell down from what we've seen of him for Love and Thunder, the pics that have come out. He's gone right back down again, and I'm like, I was kind of hoping Thor would keep a bit of the gut. Like, just a little bit of gut would have been nice for Thor: Love and Thunder. Just a, you know. But, sure, then make Hercules Jack Black. Or rather, vice versa.
Please.
I'd be very happy with that. Hercules shouldn't have a film of his own. We've had enough jokey protagonists in the MCU. Like, he should be a supporting role in a big fun, like, epic swords and sorcery Marvel film. Because that would be great. That would be freaking great.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. Hell, a Doctor Strange sequel. Like, a bunch of Greek gods descend upon New York, and Doctor Strange is like, you're supposed to be dealing with this. Come on, like, dragging around by his ear or whatever. So you can have a straight man who's pissed off with it all, and the one who's, you know, getting drunk and having fights with the bad guys using the back end of a beer bottle and a snooker cue and commenting on how these mortal weapons are hilarious.
I love it. I love it. Sign me up for a trilogy.
If anyone's like, what's Hercules in Marvel like? You know that scene in the first Thor where he says, this beverage is delicious. Another, and smashes the coffee cup. That's Marvel's Hercules.
Yeah.
But with a bit more sex. Yeah. That's what we need.
But he likes dick. So, because he's Greek, for fuck's sake.
He's a Grecian god. Yeah. Or demigod.
The Greeks invented sex. The Romans realised you could invite women. So... We're going to do...
As the tagline.
We're going to talk about the final episode of Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
A.K.A.
Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Spoilers from this point forward. If you haven't been spoiled on this episode, congratulations. You've stayed off social media for the last week. And
yet somehow found yourself here.
Yeah,
I mean,
weird.
For that, we're very thankful. Cheers. Yeah. Why not? But
I appreciate your devotion to this
bizarre
thing
cult
we make.
This terrifying televangelism in microcosm.
Make is a strong word. It just slithers out on our filth.
What's the speech from No Country for not No Country for Old Men, Gangs of New York?
It's There Will Be Blood.
Oh yes, because it's Dave
Daniel
Lewis,
Day-Lewis,
isn't it?
but
Yeah.
You're an afterbirth, Eli. You slither out on your mother's filth. Should be kept in a jar on the mantle.
That's this show.
And then he beats him to death with a bowling pin.
And he drinks his milkshake. He drinks it right down.
We have a new Captain America, ladies and gentlemen.
We fucking do.
And
Now we kind of knew we did 2 years ago.
Yes.
It's only now that he take up the mantle. Who it be, Mayhew? Who be this titanic hero of Grecian even proportions?
It'd be Sam motherfucking Wilson.
Yeah, it fucking
in his fantastic red, white, and blue comic accurate or comic inspired, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, damn close.
Captain America, all new Captain America costume. Just being the thing I really liked about this series is that it was 6 episodes of him coming to terms with what it means to be Captain America in 2021 and how he can sort of carry on that legacy. And I think there's certainly a speech to the senators and such that was broadcast on the news in universe in that last episode was just very much a case of bringing up the call and sort of trying to drag everyone along in that we have to do better and be better, which is such I think such a universal sentiment at the moment. Like there are so many people in positions of privilege and positions of power that just have to do better, and they need people to hold them to account for that and to hold them to those standards.
And the way he worked in the message of the Flag Smashers there, like he said, don't call them terrorists. I mean, bit of a grey area there, Sam. Some of them definitely were terrorists.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. Terrorism,
the movement was a whole like Carly, terrorist.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You can argue that the only thing that separates a terrorist from a soldier is a paycheck.
Yeah,
Yeah.
A soldier is someone capable of the same thing that you point in someone else's direction.
Yeah,
it's whereas in this case he was making that thing of saying don't call the Flag Smashers terrorists because you have to think about why they tried to send this message in the first place.
Yeah,
why are they upset in the first place? It's your job to find a way to make their world better and safer.
Because it's so often that people don't even ask that question, but and also the worst thing is that some people do ask that question and just don't care about the answer.
Yeah.
But I think it was nice to see the show actually take a stance.
Yeah.
And it took a while to get there, but I think that's kind of the point because Sam has to get there. Yeah,
it had to be an organic journey for him, and I think the seeds are obviously planted in terms of the mantle of Captain America and what that means to him personally, what it means to Bucky, who essentially is the sort of the last surviving relic, really, of this entire idea. He's like the last organic, living, breathing element of this, the seed that became Captain America, that sprouted into the legend and the role and what it means. He had to learn what it meant to Isaiah Bradley.
Yeah, who now has his legacy honoured properly.
Yes, Vincent and the Doctor vibes, which was nice.
Yeah,
And I loved his reaction because ultimately at the end, like they could have played it 2 ways there. They could have taken him to the exhibit, and Isaiah's just sort of like, I never wanted this, but I like the fact that it obviously wakes something in him because essentially, I think it had to be Sam delivering it to him. It had to be Sam taking him to the exhibit, because if it was like a government person like inviting him to the unveiling or something, that would have felt cold in a way. Yeah. Like the sentiment would be there, but it would be the whole, I'm sorry, but this system can't suddenly pretend we've always been on good terms after what it did to me. It was important that it was Sam who made it happen. And that hug, that was the bit in the episode that really got me when he just, he just held him in the exhibit. It was like, oh.
Yeah, it was good.
I've only just realised something.
What's that?
Isaiah's family is his grandson.
Yep.
That's Patriot.
Yep.
Because I know Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. did like a version of Patriot, but it wasn't the same character.
I don't think so.
It was like a super soldier thing, and it was tied into Captain America, and there was a uniform worn by a character that was very similar to Patriot's, like, blue, like dark blue jacket and a domino mask kind of look.
Yeah.
But which essentially is like it's sort of like a derivative of Bucky's original design, sort of Bucky meets Captain America.
Yeah.
And
in the comics, he has the triangular shield.
Yes, and that's, hey, the option is open. We set up that Isaiah Bradley lived on, and he's currently only survived by his grandson, who is super protective of him, has now seen the world and this whole idea of being a hero through the eyes of his grandfather and Sam Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
And in the comics, he's got like sort of, it's not the complete sort of super soldier strength, is it? It's like he has heightened agility and strength to a degree because it's genetically inherited from his grandfather.
Yeah.
And it's like, they don't set it up in this, and I appreciate that, because now's not the time to sow that seed. It wasn't relevant to this story specifically, but it makes, if they go down that route, the foundation of Patriot a lot richer, because we can all go, oh, it started in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? It's the General Ross thing.
He's credited as Eli Bradley.
Yeah, so there he be. There he be.
They could definitely go that way, which is neat. There's a lot of setup in this, which is interesting because on the back of this, it was revealed that Malcolm Spellman, the showrunner of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, is working on the script for Captain America 4.
Yes. He's writing it. It is starring Anthony Mackie as Captain America. It seems like whatever season 2 of this show is would be more just, here's another adventure using these characters in this world. And probably even, Captain America as well. But there's also going to be at least one feature film with Sam's Captain America as the main star. And
I think
it's
they
totally
will do
earned at this point.
That one of two things will happen. Either Captain America 4 will happen, and then they'll do a new set of Captain America films with Anthony Mackie.
Yeah.
Or they'll write Captain America 4 and realise, you know what, let's just do another series of this.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it as another series of this.
Yeah.
Because with the name change you get in the end credits from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier to Captain America and the Winter Soldier, I think that opens a lot of doors for, and it lets them do more in terms of like the character work and the sort of behind the scenes espionage stuff, which looks like the angle they're going to be going with the introduction of the Contessa and US Agent, and the revelation that Sharon is the power broker and is now in position back at the CIA.
Yes.
Which is, I love what they've done with Sharon. It's like they've just actually given she doesn't get a happy ending.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, she sort of, it's that weird thing of the system rewards her for being a white woman in America.
Yeah.
Like, she is given that pardon. She is reinstated as a job within, government. Like, whatever S.H.I.E.L.D. has become within the US government, she's being given a position amongst that. And she's now going to use it to her advantage. Maybe they don't do a full season following this. Maybe what they do is...
6 episodes is a full season. That's not much, really.
Oh, I know, but maybe what they do is they spin these things off into the next stories elsewhere. So
maybe do like a...
Sharon Carter's power broker selling off superpowered weapon stuff is what leads into Armor Wars, where people are getting hold of Tony Stark's stuff and
maybe
Rhodey's having to find out why and how that's happening, and maybe US Agent and Val, the Contessa, maybe that's going to lead into something in one of the movies, or maybe it's going to lead into like another one of the shows directly instead. I feel like it's open that if they wanted to do another series focusing on this set of characters, they could. and have that run adjacent to the films, or they could just take the threads that they've set up and go, and we'll take you guys over here, and you'll go over here.
It would surprise
me
me
as well that the director for the whole series was Carrie Scogland. I hope they consider her directing the fourth film.
I would be shocked if they didn't.
She's got a hell of a TV background, but she's got a hell of a thing like The Rook, Falcon Winter Soldier, Condor, The Punisher, Handmaid's Tale, House of Cards, Walking Dead. Like she has a very big genre background.
Stuff going on.
Yeah,
like,
Children of the Corn 666, Isaac's Return.
Brilliant.
That's one of hers.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I've only seen the first Children of the Corn. It's terrible. I can't begin to imagine the depths that Children of the Corn 666 would plumb. Also, wouldn't be the first Marvel film director to have previously directed a direct-to-video installment in a long-running horror franchise.
Oh, who'd be the next one?
Scott Derrickson directed Hellraiser Inferno.
Oh, of course, yes.
Which is probably the best of the direct-to-video Hellraisers.
And you say that as a man who has suffered through them all.
No, I've not suffered through them all. I've not seen...
Hellraisers.
I've not seen Deader or Hellworld, which are the last two with Doug Bradley in. And I've not seen the two post-Doug Bradley ones.
But Matt, they have such sights to show you.
They do have such sights to show you. They will tear your soul apart.
Do you know what didn't tear anyone's soul apart?
What?
The revelation about the Power Broker. I think the internet collectively had gone,
it's
Sharon
there.
Or Sharon's working for them.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it was inconsequential.
Yes. Because it's set up. It's set up for something else down the line, which they can do because that's the great thing about them knowing that they have X number of projects to play with is they can seed stuff in this. And Sharon's still got to be a major player, but ultimately her plot isn't resolved here fully because it's going forward into another project. It would shock me if it's not Captain America 4.
Yeah.
But
seems
by
like
the same token...
I mean, now I've said Armor Wars, I'm like, oh, can it be that, please?
Yeah, well, may well be.
Can it be that?
We don't know.
Because
it depends how much control the studio has over what these projects entail and how much control the actual writers have. I'd imagine that if it's anything like the films, they've just sort of got a broad overarching thing of like, okay, you have to hit these points here, here, and here. You can't take this, this, and this. You can't take these characters out of off the table. They have to be in this place by the end of it. Other than that, go for it. I would imagine that kind of relationship is what they've got now. Because I think they've probably learned from what went down with Ant-Man, where it was just ended up being too restrictive for Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish. And Chloe Zhao certainly talked about having a lot of freedom on Eternals.
Yeah.
Which they would have been stupid not to give her because now she's an Oscar-winning director. And so that's to have that in their stable of one of the few female director and Oscar winners is a hell of a get.
Do you think? Because there's not really too much more to say about Sharon, but I just want to, before we move on to other characters who I think have tastier kind of things to
spicier
to
things going on.
Do you think she, now knowing what we know now, do you think she was always the power broker, or do you think she became one during the 5-year gap? Because I can't remember if she she vanished or not.
This is something that happened post Civil War.
Yeah, there's 2 years between Civil War and Infinity War in universe. So
I think
and the power broker had what's his face making super soldier serum before the snap.
No, I think it happened within the 2 years after Civil War, because that's when she gets run out of the States.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like in 2 years, she's already set herself up in Madripoor and become that. Kind of implying then, I guess, that she also maybe vanished in the snap too, so that out the back of it, she's like, right, work needs to resume on this. What the hell's happened?
Possibly.
Because the show just sort of suggests that what's his face, the scientist man.
I can't remember the chemist's name.
But that he obviously disappeared, and that was why the work stalled.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting because I think had she been around in that time, she would have possibly, based on how resentful she is, she probably would have taken up a bigger position of revenge or something. I don't know. I think there's more to explore with Sharon, but it isn't here, and I think that is one of the letdowns of this series overall.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Emily Van Camp is bloody good, and we as an audience sort of grew to go, oh, she's cool in her 2 films. So for her to take such a swerve here and then for it to not kind of invest in it is...
Yeah, no, I get you.
Carly Morgenthau. Erin Kellyman. An enjoyable addition to the MCU, and she's great. She certainly had her highlights this series. I think her conversation with Sam after the funeral, after the wake of her friend a few episodes ago, was the highlight for me in terms of her scenes. I just love the way they played that.
Yeah,
because you believe that this was suddenly a child realizing I'm way in over my head here. Maybe now is the time to stop. I agree with you. It's bothered me more as the series has gone on. But you pointed out a few episodes ago that like it seems like she turns generic villain so quickly. Yeah. In a way that it felt like it was for the sake of the plot.
But it's in episode 2, isn't it? Where you get that, or is it episode 3 where you get that
end of 3? She has that place blown up. I think it is.
Yeah. And earlier in that episode, she's had that moment where she sort of talks about her motivations and the reasoning behind her actions, and you get on side with her.
Yeah.
But then he turns around and goes, "Oh, actually, she's a bad person," and it kind of conflates. It kind of conflates acting to make things better because of her motivations with her methods, and it sort of implies that they're the same thing and both are bad. Yeah. But I think the show does redeem itself by particularly the way the stance Sam takes on it's not. And yes, the people are doing these things to make things better, and they shouldn't be done. But you've got to question why they're doing it. You've got to fix the root cause of why people feel the need to take such extreme action. I think the show does a better job of that, but it still fumbles the ball with Carly in terms of like she just goes from like super sympathetic to sort of moustache twisty. She's not enjoying it, but she's making these choices very she's not moustache-fully, really, but yeah. But I think that also is to do with the idea of that Zemo says like something like the super soldier serum, to take it and gain its power is to inherently be on a path of superiority.
Yeah, so it fits in with the themes, which played weird for me in this last one because, for starters, I don't think Carly had to die for the point to be made at the end. I think it would have played just as well had she been incarcerated and still Sam be like think about what led her to this, really, really listen to why they've done this.
But it does also
because it also sort of makes you go, wait, so a super soldier can just be shot like once in the gut and die?
Well, yeah, because they're not bulletproof.
That's true, but we've seen Steve like survive stab wounds to the gut and stuff.
Oh yeah, but like
it seems a little. I mean, Thanos beat the fuck out of him with his giant sword.
That's true.
Then again, it might just not be as perfect a version because it's more
no
about
one
the person
quite like
within.
Steve.
Yeah, but that was where it played weird for me for this because the remainder of Carly's group, they get rounded up by Bucky and John Walker, and they kind of surrender, and you sort of get the sense that they are like, this has gone too far. Like, they give off that vibe of this has gone too far. And they hand themselves in. But then they have the PS scene where one of the people chaperoning them seemingly to a lockup is a member of the Flag Smashers. And they all give this kind of like little evil grin like, ha, we're gonna get out of it. And not played as like a, oh, thank God. It was played as like a, yes, we'll have our revenge, for then it to be subverted and then blown up. Which again,
I
genius
was great.
Because it was Zemo's butler.
Which Keats didn't recognise him.
Same.
Until I pointed it
I
out.
didn't at first. I was like, who is this? Who is this mysterious Mickey Mouse gloved man?
Mickey Mouse gloved man.
It's like, oh, he's a butler.
He's
Zemo's.
the butler.
It's Zemo's old
butler.
as fuck. It's the blade that pierced his body 2.0. So, but I love that idea that even in prison, Zemo's obviously been like, or set up the contingency of, yeah, don't let any of these super soldiers survive.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because that's what he doesn't want that.
And
So
then you just get that scene of him hearing the news and just like settling back onto his bunk with a smile on his face. He's sorted. He's job done.
He's got his shit-eating grin. He's got his book. He's fine. He goes back to what he was already in, except it looks like comfier quarters this time because now he's in the raft.
Yeah.
And he'll no doubt be plucked for the Thunderbolts program or something in the coming series or films, because why else would you give us that little tease of, oh, Daniel Bruhl's in that prison you all remember from Civil War, and it's sort of quite poetic as well, because like his actions led to half of the Avengers like being in that prison in his debut, and now that's where he's housed. John Bloody Walker.
Oh God, Wyatt Russell's so good in this.
I think for me, I mean, Isaiah Bradley, Sam Wilson are the reasons I think this series works so well in terms of their arcs, the performances, and the conversations they have in particular.
Yeah.
Some of the best scenes in this series are like, two of them, of the best scenes in this series, are just two dudes sat in a backyard repotting plants and having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they just are. But the MVP for this series for me is Wyatt Russell. Because holy fuck, they made that character sympathetic, irritating, then detestable, then kind of grey, then fucking terrifying. And now I don't know exactly how to feel, because he makes the right call in this. He rocks up and you think he's going to show up and like beat the fuck out of Bucky or something, or he's going to like try and murder the Flag Smashers to make a point. And instead, maybe that's why he shows up, but he makes the right call and saves the van of officials.
Yeah, which is, I thought was a really neat. It was like, and in sort of understanding what it takes to be Captain America, he understands that he hasn't got it, but he still wants to serve.
Yeah,
which is how he ends up as US agent.
Which is how he's going to be totally manipulated later on.
They're going to play him. They're going to play him.
Because he gets his own uniform, and oh, look at you, a US agent. You've got your own code name, and wait, this is going to be great. Well done, John. I'll be in touch. And it's like, this ended too good to be true. I mean, again, it's a commentary that the two characters who should have faced justice really at the end of the series were both white and both got away with jack shit.
Yeah.
They had no punishments by the end, really. John's got a new name and a purpose, and he feels great. Sharon's got a new position that she's secretly still going to take advantage of to fuck people over and profit. And that kind of sat with the themes of the show as well. It was that kind of bittersweet note to see both of them get a happy ending, because it was like, yeah, but Isaiah never got that. He gets it now, but it's still not right what happened to him.
And it's still not enough, because it doesn't make up for the loss of his wife and all those years he could have spent with where they were in prison.
And yet, like, US agent goes free. Sharon Carter gets well, your aunt was a good kid, so off you go. It's like, like, it felt dirty when they said, like, you know, good luck, Agent Carter. It was like, don't you call her that, you bastards. She's not earned that name. She could have, but she's not anymore. But I think Wyatt Russell was phenomenal in the whole series. For me, he's the breakout for me this series. Because I was aware of US Agent, didn't really give a shit about him. He's in some stories I've read, and I got the gist. Yeah. And now I'm like, that is one of the most fascinating characters in the MCU in recent years. Like
definitely.
I've said on this podcast before, I like a boo hiss baddie. I think we're missing boo hiss baddies now, because the world is grey and people are becoming more aware of that, and media, especially family media, is reflecting that a lot more. Yeah. And I get it, but I do miss a boo hiss baddie. I will make an exception for John Walker, because that is some delicious grey area
Who isn't always a bad guy. That's the thing with John Walker.
It's like tuna paste. It's grey area that tastes nice on a sandwich. It's just okay.
Like, he's not really a villain, but he's too murky to be a hero. Like, he's usually trying to do the right thing, but he's either manipulated out into doing it in such a way that is not what he wants it to be, or is just genuinely misguided.
He's in the same He's in the same wheelhouse as Killmonger for me, in terms of, I can't quite believe how intricate you've made this character and how well you've executed it with your script and picking the right fucking actor for the role.
Oh God!
Like, oh my God! Just my days. Like, the sheer
charisma that radiates off Wyatt Russell is ridiculous.
And both of them, Killmonger and US Agent, both respectively get their villain moments. They get scenes where they are scary and they're clearly enjoying hurting the good guys. But, just Wyatt Russell, man, give him more roles in more things, please. But leave his calendar.
I'm sure he'll
leave
be
his
fine.
calendar open enough that he can pop back as US Agent.
Oh, we'll be back. He will be back.
And in greater numbers.
No, there's just one of him still.
Oh, that's true. That's true in a way. Sebastian Stan. I feel like as the series went on, Bucky kind of took a back seat. But I don't think that was a fault of the structure. I think that was the intention all along. I think he was and the Winter Soldier for a reason. For the exact same reason the character has been Captain America and Bucky.
Yeah.
Like, he was the supporting character that the book, or in this case, the miniseries, needed.
He's a sidekick. And, like, when they tried to make him Captain America in the comics, it didn't really work because he's a sidekick.
Yeah.
He doesn't have...
I mean, it was compelling, but it was compelling because it didn't feel right. Like, it felt off.
Yeah. He's heroic.
Yeah.
But he's not a hero, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he does heroic things, but he doesn't have the... It's not even that he doesn't have the strength of character or the moral fortitude to be a main hero, because he absolutely does. It's just that's not what
Steve was the best of the best. Having Bucky around made Steve somehow even better.
Yeah, like, and Bucky
that seems to be working now with Sam. Same thing.
He's a force multiplier. Like, he's not. Yeah. He's more effective when he's paired with other people.
Yeah. He lines up the goal for the other person to take the shot.
Yeah.
And is the best there is at that. Like, he's superb at it. And I think Sebastian Stan played that really, really well. Part of me wishes we got to see the conversation with his friend about...
I mean, there was a lot of stuff in an already overstuffed episode, and I think it's kind of better that we don't, because...
It would weirdly drag the whole episode down in terms of where it happens in the story into a... into a bit of a quagmire. Maybe, based on the plot structure, that scene could have taken place at the start of this episode, almost. And then after everything, that's when he sort of pops by the restaurant and doesn't go in to talk to him. To sort of show the idea that it's like, maybe you shouldn't stick around for this.
Yeah, well, they can't, like
give him that distance, because that is one hell of a revelation to learn that his son was killed by you, like 30 years ago or whatever, and it's like, you did it. So there's no way for that's not going to pass. And I kind of think it was nice they touched back on his date as well. That she sort of gave him this look of, like, not now. Like, just sort of looked at him and was like, no, now's not the time. Do you know what I mean? It was Bucky's going to get a happy ending, but he's had to earn it, and he's still earning it.
He's not there yet.
He still gets to be the cool uncle at the cool friend uncle at the Wilson family do. That was a wonderful ending.
Oh, he's going to be a real uncle at some point. Don't you worry.
I like we got more time with Sarah in this episode as well.
That's what I was saying last week. It's going to be it's interesting to see a Captain America who's got a family to go back to, and I think it was really neat that the series ended on that. I think going back to his family and his community and being a figure for them outside of the suit, outside of the trappings of it, and people not just knowing him as Captain America, but also knowing him as Uncle Sam. There we go.
Yeah.
And but by being more personable and visible and just interacting with people in a way that Steve never really had the chance to.
There aren't many MCU protagonists that have family. Like, there aren't that many. They're all sort of on the job in some role.
We
like,
see a
the
bit of it
the
with
Guardians are a
Hawkeye.
family, but they're all adventurers.
Yeah.
And that's why I don't like throw away Age of Ultron, for example, because like I really did appreciate that angle.
Yeah.
That revelation was really nice. It was like,
I'm interested to see how
one of these guys has stakes, has people to go back to. Like,
I'm interested to see how they sort of work that into the Hawkeye series, and how they sort of get Kate Bishop on sort of meeting up with Clint, and how that works out. I'm intrigued to see that.
Because we don't really like that's an opportunity to do it. We don't really have it with Spidey as much as we should.
No.
And I don't think we're going to get it with Spidey anytime soon, based on what we're learning about the next one, which kind of sucks.
We've got it with Ant-Man.
We've got it with Ant-Man, although
Cassie.
that structure has changed now, so it'll be interesting to see going forward how that plays in Quantumania. That's
so fucking great.
It is a good title.
I love it.
It looks like we're going to get it to a degree in Shang-Chi, but obviously the story of that film seems to be, you have this like friends and family thing, and it's about to get torn up because of thing beckoning you back toward what you're meant to be doing. But at the very least, like Captain America having family, having a home, having that community, and we are two fairly privileged white guys from the northwest of England. There are things here which we can appreciate but will never completely understand. But the reaction online to like Sam being Cap, like outside of our immediate circles, like looking at especially African American commenters, users online discussing it, like there is something there that like I think we can observe and we can feel it. We'll never understand it in the exact same way, but my God, it is doing like so much good. The fact that Sam Wilson and Captain America has been trending on and off every day on like Instagram and Twitter since the finale, like, and is just this big, wonderful, positive buzz that hasn't gone away.
Yeah.
It speaks volumes. Like it's so freaking cool. I don't know when the interview's from, but the clip's doing the rounds again now. Anthony Mackie being interviewed, talking about the end of Endgame, which, as we record this on Alien Day, happy Alien Day, everybody, is also the 2-year anniversary of Endgame coming out in US cinemas, because I think we got it like the day before, didn't we?
Yeah.
So I don't know if the footage is from around the time of Endgame or if it's around the time of Falcon the Winter Soldier, but it's this clip of Anthony Mackie saying he was watching Endgame with his kid in the cinema. It was his first time his kid was seeing it. And Steve gives him the shield. And his young lad just turned and looked up and went, "Dad, are you Captain America?" and he went, and he sort of went like, "Guess I am." And his kid apparently just went, "Okay." And then just looked back at the screen, and that was it. And then, like, a week later, phoned him from a friend's house, and his kid was sobbing. Because he was like, all my friends think it's the coolest thing ever. Like, you're Captain America. I'm so proud of you. And he said that was it. He said, I was just bursting into tears on the phone. Like, because all you ever want as a parent is for your kids to, like, just like you. You want your kid to like you. Like, that's the most important thing to you in the world. You want to get on with your kid. And he said, like, that broke me. And it's just that whole idea of, it's not just because it's his son. Like, there's going to be so many young boys and girls around America who are going to see this and go, oh my God, I can be that too. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's that beautiful thing of like, the Falcon is now just part of this tapestry of the character. The Falcon is one part of it. And the DNA's still there. Let's talk about the set pieces and that mother-loving costume.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that it's Wakandan.
Yep.
Like, it's an African costume made for America's hero. It's freaking beautiful. It's the Falcon wings are there. Unlike the comic, they've retained the MCU version of his wings. They're like a backpack, so they can do a bit more with him without having to explain the physics of the wings being under his arm all the time.
Yeah.
Which was great because Sam Wilson is not a fighter. Sam Wilson is not a super soldier. He's a pilot.
He's been doing some training, though.
With decent combat training, who can now do decent stuff with the shield and will obviously get better and improve now that he's like fully taken the mantle up. But there was a brilliant article. I can't remember the website now. But I'll pull it up, the name of the website, because I want to give it credit. But there's this wonderful article doing the rounds from last year.
He gives Batroc Zilipe a run for his money.
R.I.P. Batroc.
Yeah.
Although we don't see the body. So...
Oh, we kind of do.
Do we? Yeah, probably. Let's see where this article's from. Mark Bernardin reposted it onto Twitter, and I gave it a read, and it was bloody wonderful. Where are you, article? Right, the website Black Nerd Problems. This article's from about a year ago.
Okay.
And it's called, It's About Time... It's loading. It's about time we acknowledge Sam Wilson can't fight.
Nice.
Oh, no, so it's not from a year ago. It's from earlier this year. It was like during the season as it first started coming out. And it's basically talking about how, like, every fight he's ever had in the MCU, he's had his arse handed to him.
I rewatched the first Ant-Man recently, and yes.
But,
yes,
like, that one's so embarrassing that it's a running gag of, like, never talk of it. Never talk about that.
No.
Never speak of this.
Let us never...
Like,
Steve doesn't need to hear about this.
Even him acknowledging that he knows Scott is like we know each other. That's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Don't ask how we met. Don't ask what our first meeting was about.
We have met.
Yeah. Rumlow hands him his arse once he gets de-winged in Winter Soldier. And the only thing that saves him is the helicarrier crashing into the Triskelion.
Yep.
Bucky rips his wings off in that film and takes him down. Do you remember who else it listed? Ant-Man, obviously. Then in Infinity War, I can't remember it listed, but it listed another one where it's like, Falcon gets his arse handed to him. But most embarrassingly, him and Bucky get their asses handed to them by a teenager in red and blue pajamas who has so much of a one-up on them that he keeps pausing the fight to talk about how cool their gimmicks are.
Yeah.
You can fly?
Very good.
That's so cool! And it's this. Obviously, the article's tongue in cheek, but like by the end of it, they're like, "Sam better step the fuck up if he's going to become Captain America." And yeah, they show that defense is his primary, and I think that's right. Like he won't fight. He refuses to fight Carly at the end.
Yeah,
he refuses to fight her, so it's about deflection and evasion. He still gets some licks in. He's still like firing two Red Wings with little rockets and stuff, but it's mostly shunting, pushing, deflecting, and ricocheting the shield off of stuff.
Because what's the most important thing that his Wakandan suit doesn't have that his previous suits did?
Red Wing?
The guns.
Yes, that's true.
He doesn't have his guns anymore.
He'd be gunless now. That he be. That's a good point.
But he does still have a bunch of gadgets which he uses
like the
to sort of
jetpack.
Compensate. Yes, well, it was a jetpack anyway.
But like using it with the shield. Because it's like, he's not a super soldier. The shield's vibranium, sure. But he's not a super soldier.
Yeah.
So when he's like being hit by something hard, he needs to ground himself. And in the fights, he does it with, like, at one point, the wings just go crunch into the ground behind him and hold him steady. At another point, the jetpack, a couple times, he uses the jetpack as for short bursts to, like, ram forward with the shield, which is genius. And then you've got the bit on the bridge where the helicopter debris is going to crash into him and the pilot. So over go the wings, which we've seen in this series and in Civil War. Over go the wings to cover up from the debris, and then the shield just boomf right on top of it. Oh, that looked great.
It looks very good.
I think he's like the first. Well, no, Tony Stark, I guess, but he's like the first MCU hero. Is like, yeah, if I'm a kid, I want all the accessories and all the all the play abilities to come with that toy.
I want his red bird.
I want the toy's wings to go whoomp forward, and I want the shield to be able to stick to the front. And I want him to be able to fire the shield by squeezing his legs and making him go wee with his arm. Like, I want to do all that stuff. Lucy made a brilliant point. She said, I love the costume, but his head's exposed. And I was like, yeah, it is. Then again, it was as Falcon. Like, it was as Falcon too. True. And also, it's more thematic. The reason why it's designed that way is to, ape sort of the comic design of Falcon's original costume with the goggles, the neck brace, and the strap around the head. But also,
the head sock.
The whole point is we want to show off our new Captain America, and him being black is a big part of the character.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of want to see his face. Plus, like, there's no secret identity thing. Steve didn't have a secret identity. He spends most of the movies in the series with his helmet off.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and this time everyone knows Falcon. Well, we think everyone knows Falcon because everyone keeps calling him Black Falcon. I like that became a recurring gag.
Yeah, that was neat.
Wonderful.
I liked that.
That was a beautiful moment as well. The two older guys in the crowd was like, oh, that's Black Falcon. And the younger of the two goes, no, that's Captain America. It's like, yeah, it is. Yes, it is. I like that the suit looks like a flight suit. It's got a bit of padding to it and it sort of ruffles and bunches. It sort of looks like Steve's first costume, the first Avenger one, but recoloured.
And it should be padded and more tactical because it's a
He's
combat
flying.
suit.
He's flying around. He's going to crash and bump into things. Because the only time he wasn't like that in the films was for some of the Winter Soldier. Because he just nicked the wings from the S.H.I.E.L.D. facility.
Yeah.
So he's just like in his t-shirt and jeans. But then the rest of the films, he's always got some kind of at least like central body padding. His legs are padding. He's got boots on and, you know, gloves and stuff. I think he looked cool. I think he looks so freaking cool.
He looks really fucking cool. Yeah.
So much so that I've put a 10% deposit on... Did you see Hasbro Pulse had another event this week where they're like...
I've seen the figures. I have seen the figures.
Oh, Disney Plus Wave. Not only that, they're out next month. Normally when they announce stuff, it's like coming 7 months from now.
Well, I imagine they've had these on the back burner for a while.
They definitely
and
have.
Them just ready to go for when the shows have been on.
Because the US Agent figure's incorrectly painted. Ha! It's a black version of John Walker's Captain America costume. Yeah, which means that probably was what US Agent looked like at some point, and then since they've obviously revised it to look more like the comic book one. All I'm saying is, I own Tipex and I own black paint. I can very easily make it look like the one on screen.
You don't need to repaint your own toys, Christopher. I can do that for you.
Okay. I might have to commission you for that. But yeah, it's great because the wave is Captain America, and it's Sam Wilson. Winter Soldier, Bucky, Wanda in Scarlet Witch costume from WandaVision, the White Vision from WandaVision, Baron Zemo, which is actually the one I'm most excited about getting my hands on, weirdly enough, US Agent, and the only one I'm a little bit sort of on is the Loki figure, which is just sort of him in a smart pants, tie, jacket, like looking like he does in most of the recent trailer for Loki.
Yeah, it's a smart look, but it's
just
a
bit of a
figure?
Yeah. However, they have confirmed that there will be more figures based on Loki coming in the future. It's like,
yeah, because you got to get your Owen Wilson out there, haven't you?
Well, forget that. I just want Loki in his like election costume.
Yeah.
I just want that one. Like, oh, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful toy.
That's quite good.
So yeah, Shang-Chi toys as well have started showing up in some US stores.
Yes, yeah.
Not all of them, but some US stores. They're not available for pre-order over here, so I think that means that some shipments have been released a little too early.
Yeah,
but they look really good. They look really good, especially the Shang-Chi figure. It's like, holy shit. Actually, the Awkwafina likeness is incredible. But she's the, not the chase figure. She's the, you know, in the Marvel Legends waves now, they tend to have, every figure's got a Build-A-Figure part, except one. Like, there's just one that's a random one that's usually like... That's the one that will probably sell the most. It's like in the Spider-Man waves, like, whatever the Spider-Man is usually without a Build-A-Figure part and stuff. Awkwafina's the one for this, but it's because she's a Target exclusive. And I'm like, why are you making this difficult? You make the Shang-Chi figures available for everyone. Like, of all the Marvel movies where it's like, those action figures are going to fly off the shelves as soon as kids see it, it's going to be Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
Kids are going to want to be kicking shit all day long. Like, get those toys out on mass release ASAP.
And also, like, don't make your female figures exclusives because you want to get them out to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
You want to get more of those fuckers going, you know what I mean?
Yeah. To their credit, there's 2 female figures in the wave, but one of them is a Target exclusive. So you're like, oh, for God's sake, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Buck the fuck up and sort that one out. The 2 comic figures.
Bucky the fucky up.
Fucky and the winter fuck. The 2 comic figures in that wave.
I'd watch.
The 2 comic figures in that wave are Civil Warrior, based on Contest of the Champions game.
Yeah.
And hologram Iron Man. So it's basically a classic Iron Man armor. You know, the sort of who's the primary Iron Man artist in the 70s?
Oh, you're talking about who did the sort of the mid 70s like Kree Skull War stuff. I think that was John Byrne.
Probably, yeah. So it's the, you know, the yellow
but it's
arms,
that one.
yellow arms, yellow legs, knee-high boots. You know, classic old school Iron Man armor. But it's holographic Iron Man in that the figure is just an Iron Man, but the swappable head is a translucent Tony Stark head. So if you want to like backlight it, it looks like a hologram in a sentry suit. And the Build-A-Figure is going back, bringing it all back round. The Build-A-Figure is Mr. Hyde.
Fabulous.
Because they made an Avengers game Joe Fix-It as a Build-A-Figure, and I guess they've got to use those parts somewhere. So...
Ooh.
Did you hear that there was a leak today that Marvel's Avengers is getting some costumes inspired by the MCU, finally?
I saw that news article, yeah.
Too fucking late, guys. Don't give a shit. Like, if you'd put them in at launch, you might have had more players. But
I downloaded it because it's on PlayStation now and I still haven't booted it up.
Don't bother. No, play through the story, just as a fan of the comics, like, have a little look at what they've done. My main gripe with the story is I'm sick of, everyone's been pulled apart. 5 years later, someone gets the band back together. I'm so bored of that as a trope now. Especially when it's a first stab at a new adaptation. It's always like, this is your first story? Because at no point in that game does it ever earn, this is what the Avengers are. They're amazing. Because the first time you see them through Kamala's eyes, and you're like, okay, she's fangirling out, like, let's get to meet them. And then the mission you play as them before the time jump is the one where they fuck up. And the world goes to crap. So it's like, why would I want to get this lot back together? I've not seen them do anything cool. Or anything heroic. It's weird. Weird! But MODOK. Did you catch that trailer? Did you catch that trailer?
Yeah.
It looks fun.
It does look fun.
It looks really fun.
I'm looking forward to catching that.
Speaking of catching,
yes,
we're about to catch these he-mails, not hands.
Yeah, we got a missive from friend of the show and friend of ours, good old Charles. Not that old, but
he's not old.
Still,
he's old. If he's not old, then can we give him the title old? Good old Charles.
Good old. This has to be, the instruction is for this opening line of the email that I have to do it in my loudest Brian Blessed voice. So headphone users beware.
Oh God!
Are you ready?
It's 9:05 at night. Oh God! Here we go.
PlayStation's alive! God, that peaked.
Well, you peaked on mine, and I'm wearing headphones. How does that work?
I was going to write and ask for you both to give a eulogy of sorts. So the PSP, Vita, and PS3 highlights, lowlights, best exclusives, hidden gems, and all that sort of thing. But with Sony doing a big old backtrack after the huge swell of ire from dyed-in-the-wool PlayStation marks, such as ourselves, I can't help but feel that this is likely just a stay of execution, as opposed to something they plan to keep up in perpetuity.
Yeah.
The Vita especially, a particular favourite of ours, has been treated with nothing short of contempt by the brass in Sony Towers. So I was hoping you two might offer us your thoughts on the three systems and their respective highs, lows, exclusives, whatever, as a means to inform the rest of us what we can still go out, stay in, and enjoy before Sony inevitably let the sword of Damocles fall on our beloved childhoods. Let's forget I was well into my 20s when the Vita came out, shall we? Yeah, you and me both, buddy. As always, missing you both dearly. The light at the end of the tunnel is getting brighter, so I can't wait to see, swoosh, and get drunk with the pair of you. Lots of love, Charles.
We must go out for meats and meads when we can, because that would be bloody
meats
lovely.
and meats. The PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Portable, the PlayStation Vita. The PlayStation Portable and PlayStation Vita, I think, have the Dreamcast problem.
Too specifically based around their own gimmicks?
No, they're too far ahead they're ahead of the time.
True, yeah.
Wanting to do like console level games on handhelds. Like the reason that the DS and the Game Boy and then the DS sort of series of consoles were so enduring was because they had games that were built for portability, and a lot of the PSP and Vita's games were built as scaled down versions of full console games. The Vita in particular feels like a precursor to the Switch.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it.
If it had a dock, and you've been able, because the PSP did, you could plug a PSP into. I've got a video cable for a PSP. You can plug it into a TV, and you can sync a PlayStation DualShock 3 to it. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
I guess with the Vita, it'd have to be like some kind of wireless connection that like a 2 USB sort of thing, maybe.
The Vita's got a Bluetooth built
in. Oh yeah, there is that. But Bluetooth's never been reliable, especially not sort of 10 years ago when the system first started to emerge.
Well, no, because that's the controllers have been running on Bluetooth since the PlayStation 3 launched.
Oh God, of course.
DualShock 3s have always run on Bluetooth. So that tech's all there.
Yeah.
But they never really capitalised on it. If there had been there was never a video out capability released for the Vita. Never happened.
I mean, at the same time, what it did as its own little system's damn impressive. The scale of the scale of the games made available on cartridges no bigger than a camera's memory card.
It was great for the biggest problem with the Vita, and the PSP had it to a degree, but it's easier to get around with the PSP. Is the proprietary memory cards. Yeah. It's like the memory sticks for the PSP, which you can quite easily get around with a micro SD to memory stick adapter, not a problem. But you can't really, because of the small size of them, you can't really get around that with the Vita for its proprietary memory cards, which are rare as hen's teeth.
Yeah, oh God, they're hard to get.
Very expensive.
Yeah,
and I think the biggest one they made was 64 gig. And I've never seen one in the wild. I've never seen one for sale on Amazon that wasn't from a third party scalper. And that's the biggest problem with the Vita, because it was a digital delivery system building off the idea of the PSP Go. Again, the PSP Go, another thing that was super ahead of its time, because it was a PSP with no disc drive, all digital stuff. They did have a digital storefront, but a lot of the particularly the PSP exclusive titles didn't have digital releases. Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Acid, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
didn't have digital releases and still don't. So you can only play those on original PSPs. Well, I say original PSPs. They did like 4 different hardware revisions of the PSP with a disc drive. So you've got plenty to choose from. But I think both the PSP and the Vita are both going to have the same sort of legacy in that they have both become quite fertile ground for homebrew and emulation.
Yeah.
Like the security on them has been cracked up, down, left, right, and centre. Like, because that's how you get round the Vita storage problem. Is you get a Vita 2 SD, which is an micro SD adapter for the Vita's game cartridge slot. And if you're running a custom firmware, you can use that as storage. That's also how piracy happens and stuff on the Vita and things like that. So that's kind of, in a way, it's even if the stores had gone down, and I think they still will eventually. Even if the stores had have gone down when they were scheduled to, I think the PSP and the Vita's libraries would have lived on, just not legally, and that's the biggest problem. It's like
They don't want to encourage second-hand markets, but they also don't want to put the time and effort into making that library available.
Exactly. Like Nintendo did with the original Wii, is that that digital storefront's gone now. You can't buy stuff from it. You can't re-download stuff from it.
Those Wii games, unless they re-release them in these very specific limited-time bundles, you can't play them ever again. Like, unless you find a physical copy. Unless you've tracked it down.
For the Wii storefront, it was the Virtual Console and the WiiWare stuff, which didn't have physical releases.
Yeah.
It was a download service. Thankfully, all that stuff has since been dumped and archived. So you can, if you... And the Wii is a famously easy system to crack security-wise. So you can get all that stuff, just not legally.
Also, a DVD player.
It's not.
I know.
It's not.
But it should have been. It should have been.
I think you can. I think if you're running a custom, I've never tried it because why would I? I think if you're running a custom firmware on your Wii, you can play DVDs.
You can play CDs on it. I think.
Can you?
Actually, I don't think
know. You can.
I think I'm having a false memory of the Wii at my mum's from like 15 years ago, or just putting a CD in it. Oh god, my brain.
I think if you're running a custom firmware, you can, but I don't think as a non-cracked one can. But I've never tried it on mine, to be fair. So,
milk.
But yeah, so the PSP and the Vita will always kind of have that legacy. I think the PS3 is a bit more difficult to install custom firmware on, and as such, despite it having much less of a storage issue, because you can put a terabyte hard drive in it, like I have, it's kind of... It's not as sort of feasible to have a lot of digital stuff on there. Like, I've got too many games just from having a PlayStation Plus subscription since 2012 to have everything installed on my PS3, and it's got a terabyte hard drive in it.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest one you can put in a PS3. I tried putting a 2 terabyte one in it. It didn't like it. It's limited to 1 terabyte on a PS3. So
it went, oh, not in there. Oh, no. And you're like, sorry, do you want me to lubricate it a little more? No, I'm not doing this. You're like, okay, fair enough. Sorry.
So I think Sony have done a major disservice to... I mean, they've already done a major disservice because they've got, across the entire PlayStation family, they've got one of the deepest and richest back catalogues of any console family. Like, they've got... You could argue that the Nintendo has a higher ratio of quality.
Yeah.
But there's much less stuff there.
Yeah, it's because they put out fewer things.
Yeah.
As a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, and on third parties, particularly overlooked the N64 because it still used cartridges. They overlooked the GameCube because it used the weird tiny discs. They overlooked the Wii because it was underpowered. They overlooked the Wii U because it was weird. And they're still...
And incredibly
Switch,
misunderstood, as it turns out.
Yeah. And the Switch is still underpowered, but it's such a convenient system. And it's seeing a lot of re-releases of...
previous generation
titles. Like, I bought Burnout Paradise again on the Switch. Like, because...
Of course you did.
I wanted to buy the remastered version anyway, because I've got it on PS3.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want to buy the up-to-date version, because it's a nice game and I like it a lot. And then the Switch version was just on sale, because the Switch has something that the PlayStation 4 store lacks, which is a wishlist function.
Yeah. Oh,
so I actually got to go onto my wishlist. I've got a wishlist set up on the Switch, and every so often I'll go on it and be like, what's discounted today? Which is how I ended up with Burnout Paradise Remastered.
Hey.
And yeah, it's like, yeah, I could buy this on PS4 and it probably look nicer, but I can play this on a handheld.
Yeah.
Like, I picked up Skyrim again.
Yeah.
Because, I could get it on PS4, but this is a handheld.
You could play it on a break at work. You can take it to your parents. You can play it in other places.
Yeah.
While one of you's watching the telly, the other one can quietly be playing it in hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which the Vita was kind of aiming for, but didn't have the sort of switchability. that the Switch has.
Yeah.
And the Wii U, again, was aiming for, but just didn't, they hadn't quite nailed the concept.
Didn't quite translate it the right way.
No. They had definitely had the right idea, but they hadn't gone all the way with it.
The Wii U was the Dreamcast of the modern era. In that
God, the
everyone looked at it and went,
Dreamcast
what is this exactly?
It was so ahead of its time, and so backwards at the same time.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. It was like it had an amazing idea from the future, but all of its parts were from the past.
Like, the biggest sin it committed, not having a second analog stick.
Yes!
Like,
Yes!
Because they just hadn't realised that you needed one yet.
The only experience I ever had with one was in like a PC world in the late 90s. You know, the sort of the demo stations.
Yeah.
And I was just playing it. I was like, even as a kid, I was like, I got it. I had a SNES. I had a PlayStation. Like I got consoles. A Mega Drive had been at my dad's house for years. I got them, and I suddenly got my hands on that controller in store and was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
I don't like this.
I don't know how this feels. This feels odd. To be fair, I was also like that the first time I held an Xbox controller. But
the original Xbox controller,
yeah,
is a direct descendant of the Dreamcasts.
There you go.
The Xbox itself, in a lot of ways, is a descendant of the Dreamcast.
Mm.
It's like if you even down to the fact that the original Xbox controller only has two shoulder buttons. It only has the two shoulder triggers. Instead of having the two bumpers, like the L1 and R1, it's got the black and white buttons on the face. Yeah. And you can slot memory cards into the top of it. Like you could with the Dreamcast. It's very weird. Very, very weird.
Because with the Dreamcast, couldn't you sometimes like put Game Boy games into it?
No, so the Dreamcast had a thing called the VMU, or the Visual Memory Unit, where the memory card was a tiny little like black and white LCD 2-button console on its own.
Yeah.
And then when you slotted it into the controller, there was a little port where you could see the screen of the VMU through while it was in the controller, and it would sometimes display like information and stuff. But then so some games had functions built in where you could put stuff over to the VMU and then pull it out and then do some stuff on the go and then put it back in, like little bonus games. And it wasn't just Sega that did that. In Japan, Sony had the Pocket Station, which was a memory card which did that.
Yeah, I remember seeing images of that in like a really old. I think it was Nintendo magazine, because they were doing like a comparison on sort of the handheld tech that was out there at the time. This is in like 2001.
Yeah,
and it was. I remember seeing that and being like, "Wait, there's a tiny PlayStation, sort of."
Yeah, and that there was support for that in Final Fantasy VIII. And there was some stuff that you could only get with in Final Fantasy VIII with a Pocket Station. Which, of course, never came out outside of Japan.
One of the big selling points of the Dreamcast over here, in terms of like the games they kept pairing it with in the print media, alongside like Tomb Raider and a couple of others, was Pokemon Red and Blue. And even as a kid, I remember thinking, no, like, no, I can play that on my Game Boy. Like, why would I need a big box plugged into my telly to play Pokemon Red and Blue? I don't get it. But it must have been like a... What do you call it? The VMU or something? It must have been like a...
No, there was never any Pokemon stuff going on with the Dreamcast.
That's so weird, because I remember it so clearly. The ads
came out around the same
Charizard
time.
and Blastoise like on the ad for the Dreamcast, like the print ads.
They came out around the same time.
Maybe
so I think you're just conflating print ads.
Or maybe it was this is gonna be a thing, and it just never happened. I don't know.
No, because Nintendo would never shopped it out.
All of my video game memories Streisand effect.
Yeah.
I think they might be.
I don't know where you're getting that from. That's a weird one.
Then again,
it could have Pokemon Stadium 2 ads or something.
Maybe. I mean, it could have been a melding of things, because I read a lot of Nintendo magazine in the early 2000s, despite only owning a Game Boy. In terms of Nintendo at that point, like, and I think it's just because I liked the magazines. Like, I've never in my life played a Legend of Zelda game, but I read a shitload on like the Ocarina of Time and that around its release.
Until recently, I'd never finished the Legend of Zelda. No.
They take forever anyway. Hey,
I've finished like 4 of them now. I'm feeling strong.
Technically, you can finish Breath of the Wild like within an hour if somehow you manage to fight Ganon with no power-ups or like extra
I mean,
weapons or
yeah,
anything.
you can, but why would you?
Sadism. The erotic thrill of throwing a small elven boy at a giant burning volcano god creature.
Hey, you just got to do what you got to do.
You know what I mean?
Right, let's talk about PlayStation exclusives and highlights of the PlayStation library, particularly for the 3 PSP and Vita.
3 is my favourite PlayStation overall in terms of its library and just what it did for me. Because I know
it came out at a
the
good time.
PS2 is probably the richest, like, kind of library available for the games,
And so much of its library remains unavailable.
Yeah,
but unless you've still got a PS2 hooked up somewhere.
But the PS3 was when I really, really began to appreciate what the technology could do, because it was the first PlayStation that was like, oh no, this is also a home entertainment system. Like, it is, this will be a games console first, and all this other shit as well.
Which is something that Sony have really gone hard on that Nintendo didn't.
Yeah.
So when
Xbox
Microsoft
kind
entered the
of railed
game
against for a while, almost. They were like, yeah, well, we're about the games. And then people start going, can it play Blu-rays? All right, well, no. It can play HD DVDs, but it's a separate, you have to buy a separate thing. But don't worry, HD DVDs are going to be around for a long time. What?
I ended up picking one of those add-on drives up for like a tenner when I was working at Blockbuster, just for shits and giggles.
Did you get any HD DVDs?
Nope.
So you just got the drive somewhere?
I just got the drive and was like, got this now. My Xbox 360's complete. Because it was like, because I never had the add-ons for the Mega Drive or anything. Mm-hmm. So I just felt like I just wanted to build a tower of console stuff. Like, I'd love to get a Mega Drive and a Mega CD and a Sega 32X and just stack them all up in a big tower of power.
A tower of power? Just strapping power gloves to the front of everything. Just like, that doesn't go with that. It does now. Just gaffer taping them onto your PlayStation 1.
Maybe get really funky and get a power base converter and stick that in as well.
Prying open the disc drive and try to shove a load of Spectrum cassettes into it. Just like, they all must work together.
Yeah, they'll all work. It's fine.
Just solder an iron out. Melting this.
But yeah, PS3 kind of had that integrated. It was a rough start because it launched more expensive than the 360. It launched a year after the 360. There was no rumble in the controllers originally. There was no in-game XMB originally. Like, it was...
But there was 6 axis!
Yeah. And a lot of those early games, like the early exclusives, just weren't up to snuff.
No,
but then you got...
The very first games I got it in a bundle in late 2007, and I got it with Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga, so even then, it was a new game, but it was 2 PlayStation 2 titles mashed together with a new kind of, like, hub world.
Yeah,
and
basically.
Ratchet and Clank Tools of Destruction, which was pretty damn fun, but I think that was, like... It wasn't a launch title, but it was close to launch.
It was first year,
yeah.
And it was easily one of the best of that first year.
Yeah,
worth of games.
There wasn't much after that. Like, there really wasn't much for a while. It took till sort of late 2008 for the console to really sort of go, oh shit, this is what it's capable. GTA 4, okay. Like, this is one of the first kind of big open world things. I bought one of the first titles, one of the launch titles later, only to realise that it just existed to show off visual splendour and nothing more, and that was Heavenly Sword.
Heavenly Sword, which
it was fine.
Team Ninja would go on to do much better games, and Heavenly Sword was sort of like their blueprint for what they would then later go on to do with character action games.
Yeah, but this was them going, here's what this console can look like, and believe it or not, all these characters are motion captured performances, and we've worked with Andy Serkis and Weta to figure out how to do it, and it's like, cool. I love a hack and slash game. I absolutely adore them. I like turning my brain off and just smashing shit to pieces while I'm listening to a podcast. But that one is just kind of like, it's fine. It's fine.
But they did find this, like, the first party exclusives and exclusives in general did find their stride eventually, because we got Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, which is still a classic.
Yeah, it's
even if it does have a 90-minute long cutscene in the middle of the fucking game.
I was going to say, it's 10% an incredible game, 90% an unskippable cutscene.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's perfectly skippable. There's just a lot of them. The
Mass Effect trilogy. I mean, I know it wasn't platform exclusive, but it wasn't
a platform exclusive.
It was certainly like the first sort of showcase of this is what this system can really do.
Well, no, because I think a lot of they all ran better on 360.
Okay, so it was a blemish.
having played all three on both platforms, they ran better on 360.
What did the PlayStation 3 give us? What did it give us? God of War 3?
God of War 3, which I haven't played, but people like. But the thing with the PlayStation 3 is that it was more difficult to program for than the 360 was. Because it was sort of the last gasp of hardware companies using like weird proprietary tech rather than like more off-the-shelf PC parts, which is what they did with the PS4 and Xbox One. And they've continued to do with the PS5 and Xbox Series X with the addition of these sort of like cutting-edge solid-state drives. So the cell architecture for the PS3 was theoretically way more powerful than the 360, but it was a bitch to program for. So you had multi-platform games that did not run as well on the PS3 as did on the 360. Okay, Bethesda games particularly really suffered on the PS3. But when you knew what you were doing with it, you got stuff like the Uncharted trilogy. You got stuff like The Last of Us. Like Naughty Dog really, really did some amazing work on the PS3. Again, like Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, was amazing on PS3. Still is. So the PS3 is kind of like, it was... You've got a couple of those exclusives which really, really blew people away with. The PS3 version of Final Fantasy 13 is far superior to the Xbox 360 one, for example. And also the PS3 took off in Japan in a way that the 360 never did, just because Sony's a much more recognisable player over there, and Microsoft have always had trouble sort of trying to break into the Japanese console market, because a lot of the Japanese console market is also handheld. Yeah. Which they didn't have, and still don't. Yeah, whereas
so the PlayStation had complementary handheld devices that sort of extended everything.
Well, yeah, the PSP and PS Vita both sort of... PSP came out late PS2, early PS3, and then the PS Vita came out mid PS3 and sort of early PS4. So they sort of straddled the two. And the PSP was very popular in Japan for things like visual novels and like local co-op games, like the Monster Hunter series, sort of started and blossomed on the PSP. So they kind of had that. It's why that console was so popular in Japan, but not necessarily in outside of it, was because they were trying to do full console style experiences on portables, which just didn't work in the same way. Yeah. Because if you look at the exclusive PSP stuff, you've got things like the things that I always come to as like my favourites on the system are the two God of War games, which again are just cut down versions of full console games. I mean, they're original to that system.
Yeah, Chains of Olympus and
Ghost of Sparta.
Ghost of Sparta. I always forget the name.
But they're clearly, it's impressive what they did on the hardware, but it's clearly like it's not necessarily uniquely suited to a portable system. Yeah. And it is a portable system. But then you got things like Crisis Core, which is in very like bite-sized chunks. Mm-hmm. So it's easier to go into, and something like Lumines, which is a puzzle game. So you can just pick it up and put it down as and when. JRPGs, Japanese-style RPGs, really flourished on the PSP and the Vita. The Vita particularly, because you had a lot of stuff being imported and localized that wouldn't have been otherwise. Things like the Atelier series, and the Hyperdimension Neptunia series, and things like that. Like the really weird, obscure Japanese stuff that even I haven't touched. Persona 4 Golden is
again, thank you and old Charles for that one. That made my trip to India for me like 3 years ago. Everyone's like, how was it? And I'm like, it was great. I played Persona 4 every day for about 3 hours during every trip. It's like, no, India. I'm like, oh no, fuck India.
Yeah,
like,
no, fuck it. No.
I'm in the Velvet Room trying to like plus my Arcana. Like
I want to finish the Beef Bowl challenge.
Hell yes, the Beef Bowl challenge. I will visit that dog at the shrine every day, and I will see if the fox has popped by with a message in its little mouth. Little folded paper. I will buy all of the drinks from that vending machine until it gives me a bonus prize, but by that point I've spent too much of my yen already. Point is, it's very good.
The point is,
it's very, very good, and it's one of the most devastating experiences I've ever played in my life when you do end up dying on a floor and you realise you saved way too far back.
Yep.
And you have to work another like 7 hours to get back to where you were.
But those, it's sort of, there is a very sort of Japanese influx of games on the PSP, and particularly the Vita, because it was a platform that gave those publishers somewhere to put that stuff.
Yeah.
And again, it was way more popular in Japan than it was over here. And the Vita did get dicked around by Sony because, again, they were trying something with it that they weren't quite capable of doing. And it was like, it took Nintendo doing the Switch to get to what they were trying to go for. Because they did do the PlayStation TV, but it wasn't quite the same because you had to switch out the memory cards from the Vita to the TV.
Yeah.
And it's counted as a different system, so you didn't necessarily have all the permissions. And it was just the fact that you couldn't play every game on it. Because, of course, also the Vita had the weird front and back touchscreens.
Yeah.
And
which, based on the game, work either incredibly well or fucking abysmally.
Yeah. And
I mean, hell, based on individual games, because using the Vita for remote play, you can tell some programmers have put more care into it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because it's so the back touch buttons, the touch screen style L2 and R2 triggers work better on some games than they do on others.
Well, there are standardized controls. There are standardized emulated controls with the touchscreen for remote play on PS4. But what some developers did is they put custom remote play bindings into the game settings.
Right.
So if you're on remote play, you just select the remote play controls and it moves the buttons around to make things a bit more comfortable for you.
Okay.
So there was that. But yeah, again, it's developers putting the effort in. And that's the problem. What really did happen on the Vita, and this is happening on the Switch as well, is it was really good for indie games, like smaller indie experiences, because it was smaller digital downloads, tended to be cheaper. So you had things like Undertale explode on there. You had things like Darkest Dungeon, Invisible Ink, Counter Spy, just these smaller indie experiences that really lent themselves to that sort of bite-sized handheld gameplay and not the necessarily the big AAA stuff that the main consoles were doing, which they kept. And not to say that the Vita couldn't, because again, Uncharted Golden Abyss on Vita is great.
Yeah,
it's an Uncharted game.
It gets stuck in the gimmicks a little bit, but it's
yeah. But it's a great Uncharted game squeezed down onto a Vita. The problem being is that what people really want, I think, as the Switch has shown, is a version of that game where you can play a bit of it on the bus and then come home and put it on your TV and play it with a proper controller.
Yeah.
I think that's what people wanted, and I think that's kind of what they were trying to get at, but they just couldn't quite work it out. Because they also had things like Gravity Rush, which was another sort of like it was that kind of experience, but original to the Vita, and it didn't really. No one really gave a fuck about it until they remade it for the PS4, because no one had a Vita.
Yeah.
Tearaway was a great
Tearaway's
game.
incredible. Yeah.
But again, no one played it because it was on the Vita, so they had to remake it for the PS4.
Yeah,
it's just
it worked better on the Vita for my money as well.
Well, yeah, because
on the Vita.
it used the front-facing camera, it used the rear-facing camera, it used the rear touchscreens, it used the touchpad, it used the front touchscreen in really interesting ways.
Frobisher says,
which is free.
Yeah. And that will, if this store disappears, the joy of Frobisher Says will completely disappear.
Yeah, and because it
can't be played on anything else for the PlayStation. No other PlayStation system can do that, and that's a crime against Kevin Eldon as well as the people who should be able to play it.
God, Frobisher Says is ridiculous.
It's fucking wonderful.
But yeah, there was some good stuff that came out of the idea of the Vita, but it was just an idea that was it was at the same time ahead of its time and underbaked.
Yeah.
It just didn't quite fit. But there's such a great library on there.
It's the Xperia Play thing as well, like that whole thing back in the day, the PlayStation phone, like Sony making a phone that would tie with PlayStation, have the PlayStation Mobile Store and how that would work and whatnot. But then they never made
also played on Vita.
Yeah, they never made anything for it. They never made anything that was worth it. It was just a bunch of like shit PS1 ports that didn't quite work for the Xperia. And that was part of its downfall, but they were well ahead of their time in that they were going, we think that phone gaming, mobile gaming, can be as advanced as certain consoles. But it wasn't about putting a controller in the back of a phone and trying to sell people on it as a games console first and a phone second. It was, now we have examples of it. A lot of the games I play on my mobile are so more advanced than a lot of PS1, PS2 titles. And they obviously they had the vision, same with with the Vita and the PSP. They had the vision, but it was too soon and it was ill-defined for a lot of people. And as a result, the hard work of programmers and, writers, designers, is all going to kind of get lost over time, unless they finally, in some way, make it available elsewhere. Just in some way.
Well, like like Charlie said in his email, I think this is only a temporary solution.
Yeah.
As are all things, but the stores are staying open.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do close in the next few years quietly, with no fanfare.
If they're still open in 5 years, I'll be surprised.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're not closing this year is at least a step forward for game preservation. And gives, if nothing else, it gives people working on archiving this stuff time to dump everything.
Yeah. And
if it hasn't, let's face it, it's probably all already been dumped. Yeah. But just in case.
I keep saying they should just make, I know they wouldn't because it's a cost thing, but they should just make two pieces of hardware, a handheld one and a console one, and just call it like the PlayStation Retro, the PSP Retro, and just make all these titles for the older consoles available.
Well, that's the problem with Sony, though, is that they don't seem to have any interest in making their back catalogue available.
Yeah, well, as one of the heads of it, didn't they?
Jim Ryan, he's the CEO of Sony PlayStation division.
Before he walked it back, he said, "I just don't understand why people would want to go back and play these older games. Look at this cool new stuff we're making." It's like
he was talking about it after he'd been
bought them, mate. People have bought these games and they want to play them. That's
why. I think he was asked about backwards compatibility, and he talked about being at a Gran Turismo event.
Yeah,
and he was like, just looking at the stuff we did for this PS1 and PS2 stuff, and it just looks like garbage. And I don't get why people want to go back and play that. It's like, because
they bought it, mate. Because they bought it and they enjoy it.
Listen, I did my stream on Friday and played a bunch of NES and SNES games, TurboGrafx games.
Yeah,
and they still hold up. They might not look as shiny, but the core gameplay is there, and that's what made them popular in the first place. And
do you think he doesn't play chess because the graphics are shit?
I don't think he plays games.
He doesn't play Cluedo because it's not in 4K.
I don't think he enjoys games.
Again, a lot of the people in positions of power and influence in these companies failed upwards.
Ain't that the truth? Speaking of failing upwards, we'll be back here next week.
Beautiful. In the meantime, if you have something you think could strike up conversation like a spark in a furnace, then let us know. BigDamnContact@gmail.com. We'll be happy to hear from you. Also, you can tweet us at BigDamnCast. But that's not all. You can throw us a shekel at patreon.com/BigDamnCast. Or what can they do every Friday evening, Mayhube?
Twitch.tv/BigDamnStream. Watch me play some shit online, innit?
Sometimes it's violent. Sometimes Matt's violent. And the game's wholesome. Which one's it going to be? Wait and see.
Put on Super Star Wars and let's find out.
Oh my god, I nearly had a stroke watching you play that. It was not nice. It was not.
It wasn't nice.
Oh god, just for that, I expect compensation. So, how are you gonna repay me?
I'll see what I can do when the lockdown lifts. Bye.
I better get my 11th finger polished.